All right, so welcome to tonight's presentation. Again, my name is Cowrie Thompson. I have been with APLGO for about 16 months, a little bit longer than most of you because I started a little bit earlier, and I'm going to tell that story tonight. But most importantly, I'm going to tell you the story about negative ions and the awesome wonder that it is. And I hope that it inspires you to share our product, but mostly importantly, to realize where you sit today and the absolute advantage you have with this incredible category creator. The story starts back in May of 2020. I get a call from a good friend of mine, Nancy, and Nancy says, Cowrie, there's a guy in Eastern Europe. He wants to talk to you about his company and about his product line, and his name is Sergey. So I actually put Sergey off a little bit. I was super busy, like we all are. And when I finally got to meet with Sergey, he said, look, I've been involved in direct sales many, many years ago. I got out of it, but it was always my dream to start my own company. But I never wanted to do it until I found something that was worthwhile to bring to market. He told me about a technology that he had purchased. The story goes like this. Sergey was ready to board a plane many, many years ago, at least 10 years ago. He doesn't particularly care for flying, okay? So a friend of his noticed how nervous he was, and he said, look, I've got this little drop. It's this little lozenge, and I just want you to suck on it. It's gonna help you with your anxiety for flying. So Sergey decided, yeah, I'm gonna try it. So he took the drop, popped it in his mouth, and that actually changed the course of his life. He said that by the time he got off the plane, he already knew that he had found something that excited him so much and he wanted to learn more about it. And keep in mind, it's always been his goal to bring something new to market, to start a direct sell company with. And in today's climate, unless you have something worthwhile to talk about and to share, it's really hard to succeed. So the story goes that within 1 week's period of time from him boarding this plane, he had gotten a hold of his attorney, flown down to Western Europe, met with the manufacturing plant, and within a week he had purchased the rights to the Accumulate SA technology, which is the negative ion technology, and all that it does to bring these wonderful drops to market. So he's telling me about this on the phone, I'm listening, and he only speaks Russian, okay? So I'm going through the translator, I'm listening to the story, and keep in mind, during my career, I brought many, many products to market. I've been in direct sales for over 20 years, as a consultant, as a product advisor, as a corporate person, and I've built in the field as a field leader as well. And I've seen so many different products enter the marketplace. If you go through my list here, you'll see vasodilators, right? That's a big one. It enlarges your capacity to move oxygen through your body, help people feel more healthy. Energy is always a big product line. People need energy. Aloe Vera. How many of you guys remember Aloe Vera launching in 1972? A company called Forever Living. They bought Aloe Vera to market. I was with a company that bought the mangosteen, the xanthones to market. And here's what I'm going to tell you about products coming to market. The products that do the best are never the Me Too products. They are the products that we call category creators. Category creators have a intrinsic value and capacity to be big, big companies because we are telling a new story with a brand new product line. And over the years, what I do is I always look for category creators. The last category creator that I kind of remember coming was the ketone category creator, where you could trick the body into creating ketones to burn fat, right? You could do that. And so the keto business, or the ketone category, became a really big category, and a lot of companies jumped down. And unfortunately, after a while, all the Me Too companies start piling on. So category creators are something I've always looked for, something I've always wanted. They're hard to find, but when you do find them, boy, you really need to take a look at it. So back to my story. Sergey contacts me, he tells me about these drops. He tells me a little bit about his story, not a lot about it. But because everything's in Russian and we're going through a translator, I told Nancy, I said, Nancy, I'm kind of interested, but I'm going to do my own research. I'm going to look up this negative ion thing. I'm going to look up the ability for you guys are talking about lightning storms, you're talking about DNA drops and botanicals. I'm going to do my own research. And as I started doing my research, and keep in mind, I bought 4 different products to market, and I know what it takes. I like telling stories, and I got more and more excited as I started learning about negative ions and learning about DNA and absorption and how to absorb things directly into your bloodstream instead of going through the gut. The more I researched, the more excited I got. And as that happens, we joined the company, right? We launched the company back in July in the US. The company's already been in business for, like, at that point, 8 years. But in July of 2020, we got all the marketing done. I was able to help with that, to bring it to market, to create APLGO. So my story begins today with an individual by the name of Nicola Tesla. And of course, many of us recognize the word Tesla for the Tesla cars. Tesla has a very creative CEO called Elon Musk. And Elon's a visionary. He sent a couple of rocket ships into space, and he built something nobody ever thought he could do, which is electric cars. People said it could never be done, and he built it. But I want to go back to Nicola's story, because Nicola Tesla is one of the, well, first of all, he's called the father of modern era science. And Nicola Tesla, when you learn about negative ions, he tells a story. So we're going to read his own words. If you don't mind, I'm going to read it off the screen. He said, "One day I was roaming in the mountains and I sought shelter from an approaching storm. The sky became overhung with heavy clouds, but somehow the rain was delayed until all of a sudden there was a lightning flash in a few moments after a deluge." Okay. So he says he's up in the mountains. We just read the story. But the thing that he notices, after the lightning flash, right, came the rain. And he really thought about that. Remember, he's a scientist. He loves thinking about things. And when he sees things, he just doesn't dismiss them. He thinks, look what just happened. Lightning storm, rain. Lightning storm, rain. And he began to form this hypothesis that if he could create lightning out of thin air by using whatever means, then the rain would come. And he started thinking about, look at all these arid places on the earth where there's no water. What if I could artificially, through science, create a lightning storm and create rain? Then I could bring rain to all of these areas that don't have rain. We can farm, we can have more food. People would be able to live and settle in areas that they haven't been able to settle before. And this really excited him. So his mind started ticking and moving, and all the things that scientists, the brilliant geniuses do, right? I wouldn't know, but they think about these things and began to think about how they can create these things. So what he ended up doing was, sometime in the early 1900s, I think like around 1921 or so, he builds this tower. And the tower that he builds, he's trying to create electromagnetic waves. And the reason he's doing this is because he wants to create lightning. He wants to create a lightning storm. Why? Again, because if he can create a lightning storm, he can create rain. That's his thinking. So he goes on and creates this lightning storm. But first of all, he does it like in his private lab. Like, he tested the model out a bunch of times. So if you Google Nicola Tesla or Google image it, you're going to see pictures of a guy in a lab with lightning everywhere and these weird receptors, lightning shooting across, because he was obsessed with the idea of creating lightning to bring water around the world. After he'd done these experiments in his own lab, he creates this tower, right? The tower, you can see a photo of it sometime, I think it's 1921, and he begins running electrical currents through the tower. Why? Because he's trying to create a lightning storm. This is how he thought he would do it. One of the interesting things with Nicola Tesla is he doesn't mind failing, and he ends up failing. Like, he can't get a lightning storm, he can't create it. So the investors kind of look at him like, you failed. You didn't produce it. But to Nicola, to geniuses like him, they never really fail. They just figure out there's another way to do it. That's not the way to do it. So Nicola Tesla had this other theory. This is really, really interesting. The theory evolves around pyramids. And what Nicola Tesla theorized was that if you look at these pictures, there's two different pyramids. The one on the bottom, I think everybody recognizes. That's the Egyptian pyramids in Gaza. So if you ever see pictures of that, you've got friends on vacation in Egypt, it's hot and dusty. There's usually a couple of camels, and that basically is what you see. But if you look at the picture above, those are called the Bosnian pyramids. So in Bosnia, and I didn't know this, there's a valley of pyramids, not just one, but multiple pyramids. So if you look at these two pictures, you'll see a very different story. One picture, it's green and beautiful, it's thriving, the environment's thriving. You can see there's villages around this pyramid. Why? Because there's water present. And on the lower picture, the Gaza picture, you see nothing but a dry desert. And the idea is, I'm going to go see the pyramids. I'm going to go back to my hotel, right? Where it's nice and cool. So here's the story, or here's the theory that Nicola Tesla had about pyramids. Nicola Tesla believed, and this is just his theory, a lot of scientists don't agree with it, right? But then again, a lot of scientists never thought you could build an electric car. So his theory is that the pyramids are shaped at an angle. Why? So lightning can hit the top of the pyramid, go through the pyramid, and Nicola believed that the Gaza pyramid at one time had an underground river under it, that the creators and makers of these big pyramids, they didn't just build them to worship their gods. They built them for a scientific reason. The scientific reason is if lightning hit the top of that pyramid and sent electric current through the pyramid and connected with the underground rivers, it would create negative ions and the whole area would flourish. So if you look at the above picture, the Bosnian pyramids, this is an example of a pyramid that's flourishing the way it was intended to flourish, to create an epicenter of negative ions that would bathe the whole area in fruits and plants and trees, create more water, where you'd have civilizations that could grow around these pyramids. So the thing I love about this theory, right, it's not a fact, it's a theory, is that if we look at the Egyptians and we wonder why they built these pyramids, and if you look at the ingredient, it's limestone, which has a propensity to absorb electricity, which is really, really interesting. If you look at the pyramids in Gaza and you start thinking, oh, they just built them to put the mummies in and that's it. I don't know that anybody would work hard to do that. But according to Nicola Tesla, the Egyptians built the pyramids because they wanted to create a wonderful epicenter of bountiful conditions of water and trees and forests flourishing so that people could have that in the desert, which to me makes a lot of sense. So what I'm essentially saying is that Nicola Tesla, when he was working with electromagnetic currents, discovered negative ions. And he discovered that negative ions abound in nature. They're all over. And as he began to study the pyramids, the Bosnian pyramids have underground rivers below them. And he theorized that the Egyptian pyramids were built the same way for the same intent and the same purpose. So what are pyramids? According to Nicola Tesla, they are negative ion producers to create a whole environment, a whole ecosystem of health and wellness for the people who live around them. And I think that's really, really remarkable. Now, negative ions, we all know that they're good for you. What is a negative ion? A negative ion is a particle or an atom that has more electrons than it has protons. So if it's heavier in electrons than protons, it's negative, and negative ions abound in nature. We talk about the fact that if you're around running water, waterfalls or the surf in the ocean, those create a huge amount of negative ions. Personally, I love this story because I grew up surfing. I spent 20 years in the ocean. So I'm thinking I spent 20 years around crashing waves and negative ions. And I feel so good even as a 55-year-old. I'm hoping that's the case, but I wouldn't doubt it. That's the really cool thing. So negative ions are good for you. Each cell in your body has a negative ion charge. The reason for that is it protects you from positive ions. Let's learn a little bit more about where negative ions come from. If you've ever been out in nature, you'll experience negative ions. I often hear people say, I can't wait till my next getaway. And when you ask people where they want to go, yeah, sometimes they want to go to Vegas, right? But people don't go to Vegas to relax. They go to Vegas to get entertained. If they want to relax and recharge, is Vegas the place to go? No, because Vegas is full of positive ions. We'll get into that in just a minute. People go to the mountains. They like to take walks in the mountains. They like to be around streams, and they say, I feel good up here. Yes, God created this and we feel great about it, but science has shown that these areas have heavy concentrations of negative ions. Now, negative ions are absorbed through breathing them in. So if you're in these areas, you're breathing them in, they're going into your cells, and they're very, very good for you. They can be produced by UV rays, the sun discharges, the electricity, thunderclaps. These are all different ways besides moving water and heavy wooded forest where you can find abundance of negative ions. Now, negative ions have a lot of positive effects. We're going to read through them really quickly. One is the body requires negatively charged ions to counter oxidation in the body. If you know anything about oxidation, this is what makes us old. This is what ages us. The best example I've ever heard of oxidation is to take an apple and cut it in half and watch it, and in half an hour it begins to turn brown. That's oxidation. That is the oxidative process that our cells go through that age our cells and make us less healthy. Now, keep in mind, the body has two responsibilities or two functions. One is to maintain itself. The body always wants to maintain itself. The cells want to maintain themselves at a high active cellular level of health. Number two, the body wants to repair itself. That's all it does. So if you think about the human body, two functions, maintain and repair. That's all it does. Now, theoretically, if your body always maintained and repaired itself, you would never grow old and you would never have diseases because the cells are always healthy and regenerating. So the first part of our existence, we can generate healthy cells, but as we get older, it gets tricky. Why? Because of negative ions or positive ions. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. What else? Negative ions help bind and remove toxins from the body to prevent degenerative disease, helps increase blood flow to the brain for better cognitive function, stress relief, and it purifies the air to take away hazardous airborne products. A lot of people, you may or may not know, in your house, most of you have a negative ion producer. What is it? It's your air conditioning unit. Why? Because in your air conditioning unit, there's water moving and it produces negative ions. So if you go into a room with air conditioning, yeah, it feels really good because the temperature is cool, but you're also experiencing a higher level of negative ions. And theoretically, well, not theoretically, if you were to increase the amount of negative ions in a room, do you know that your heart would breathe easier? The oxygen would flow through your cells much easier. It would lower your stress levels. Negative ions have such an amazing effect on the body. If you look at this little chart here, I'm not going to read through all of them. We don't have time, but you can see some of the benefits listed there. Now, in order to see the true value of negative ions, we're going to talk about positive ions. Positive ions are called cations, and negative ions are called anions. So to understand good, sometimes you got to understand evil, right? To understand different things, you go to a different side of the spectrum. So let's talk about positive ions. What generates positive ions? In general, anything that's toxic or has an electromagnetic capability will generate harmful positive ions, including, okay, here we go to the list. Electronic devices like televisions, phones, and computers. Have you guys seen like the blue light glasses? You go get a prescription for your glasses. They have a blue light version, okay? It's to stop infrared and harmful rays, but also to cut down on positive ions. Positive ions are also very heavy through fluorescent lighting. If you go into a factory where there's fluorescent lighting, okay, what ends up happening is People aren't getting their time clocks reset because fluorescent lighting doesn't do any of that for you. You got to get into sunlight to reset your time clock. So if you know anybody with insomnia, take off your shoes, go outside in the sun, and set your time clock back up so your body can get a normal habit of going back to sleep, okay? Fluorescent lighting, toxic carpeting. In our carpets, there are a lot of chemicals that are toxic. You can lay a new carpet. You know that carpet smell when you lay fresh carpet? Smells really good. There's also some toxicity in that coming up with positive ions, okay? It's found in lead paints, upholstery, air pollution, obviously. So if you live in a crowded city or industrial zone, you're going to have higher levels of positive ions. If you live out in the woods, you're going to have lower levels of positive ions and higher levels of negative ions. It just kind of makes sense that way. Other potential downsides of absorbing too many positive ions. Now listen to this. Inflammation levels. Anything with the word itis, tendonitis, bronchitis, anything with the word itis is inflammation. If your body begins to oxidize, it produces inflammation in your cells. And these are caused a lot by positive ions. Mood swings. Do you know anybody with mood swings? And you're like, Chris, what's wrong with you? You're so moody all the time. Well, maybe Chris works around computers all day and he doesn't get out in the sun. And maybe Chris is breathing toxicity through a lot of things in his house or office, but being bombarded with positive ions. How about chronic pain? That's a big one. In fact, these are all big ones, right? Do you know somebody that has chronic pain? Maybe look at their environment. Where are they working? Is it full of positive ions, allergies, and other items, okay? So I've got a couple of screens on a couple of images on the screen. You can kind of take a look at them, read through them. But positive ions really help us understand the value of negative ions. Now I'm going to start moving a little bit faster. So I want to keep this to 30 to 35 minutes at the most. Did you know that most plants, or all plants, are supercharged by lightning strikes? So we've told the story over and over. There's about 8 million lightning strikes a day. The lightning doesn't just disappear, right? It goes into the soil and comes into plants and stores in the leaves as negative ions, which is a beautiful thing. So theoretically, if you're to walk outside during a lightning storm and you feel that rarefied air, you're experiencing a high level of negative ions. Now, if you're to go pick an apple on a tree during a lightning storm, right? Theoretically, you're going to take bites of apple that are super rich in negative ions. And I've already explained why they're important. The interesting thing is all the botanicals that are picked to take to market, once the botanicals are picked, they immediately begin to lose their negative ion charge. So when we're buying things from the health store or from some herbicist or some herbology person, I don't even know the word, somebody that sells herbs, these herbs theoretically have already lost a lot of their negative ion charge because they were picked, okay? So at APLGO, this is something that's really important. We pick all of our botanicals at the peak of harvest. If you look in our drops, we've got so many different botanicals: turmeric, licorice, dandelion root, Siberian ginseng. The list goes on and on and on, right? Tons of different botanicals. We pick them at the heart or the peak of harvest. And what we do is we scrape through our technology, we scrape the DNA off of these botanicals, these plant botanicals, and we infuse them into these drops. But the other part, the other portion of why this product is so powerful is because of its negative ion charge. So with the plant DNA, great. We've got a great plant DNA drop where we can absorb all that plant DNA that goes right into our mucosal membrane, into our bloodstream very, very quickly without going through the gut. That's how one little drop has so much potency, because it doesn't get wasted. We're transferring plant DNA into your body, and your own DNA knows how to use it. Your body knows how to use that plant DNA to put it to work. Now, without these drops, I don't know if you guys have tasted wild herbs, bitter herbs. They taste terrible. If you don't believe me, go outside and start licking your trees, lick your plants. It's not something you want to do, okay? So we don't take the flavonoids, we take the DNA off of these many different plant botanicals and infuse them into these drops. But the number two thing is, here's the kicker. We have a machine that Sergey acquired. It's called the Accumulate SA technology. The machine creates a lightning storm within the chambers. That lightning storm creates negative ions, and all of our drops are infused with negative ions, and you simply absorb the negative ions by sucking on them and taking them into your system. Now, I've heard people say to put them on your tongue. The reason why we don't ever teach that is when you put it on your tongue, it's called sublingual, and it becomes a pharmaceutical term, and we're not pharmaceutical, okay? We're all natural. So we just tell people to suck on them, they'll go into your bloodstream, they'll absorb through your mucosal membrane. I once asked Sergey, through an interpreter, of course, how does the Accumulate SA technology work? Because nobody has it. Like, how does it work? And Sergey was really tight-lipped with me. And I got to know Sergey pretty well. And all he said was, through a translator, he went, zzz, like an electric noise, zzz, and he said, I won't tell you anymore. And the thing with Sergey is interesting. Sergey knows that we're a category creator. He knows that we're first to market. So the great thing about this, if you ever look at category creators, what are some category creators? Kleenex. Kleenex is not really a category, it's a brand, but because it was first to market, it's a category creator. Xerox, like a Xerox machine, it's not a category, it's a brand, but because they're first to market, everybody knows when you go to a Xerox machine, you get your things Xerox, you're gonna get a copy. But they're known because they're a category creator. Somebody, here's my point, somebody had to bring this to market. We're the first ones to do that. We have a category creator, meaning we have plant DNA, negative ions in a drop, category creator. Now, why is that important? Why? Because we're introducing to the world's first Anion DNA drop. They don't exist. We're the first ones bringing it to market. Now, I've heard of ions and negative ions in cosmetics. They've been around for a few years. Here's what I'm going to tell you. My wife has been using cosmetics with negative ions. This is before we learned about APLGO's beauty line, cosmetic line. The first time I gave her a drop, here's what she said to me. She said, you know, when I suck on these drops, I feel like I'm putting my makeup on, my cleaner. Like she uses serum and milk wash and toner. I said, I'm not a facial guy, right? But she says, Kelly, when I took the drops, I felt like I was using my cosmetic line. And when we looked at her cosmetic line, they had negative ions in them. They're charged with negative ions, which I thought was really, really cool. So why is this important? We are bringing to market and we're welcoming people to the new age of supplemental nutrition. I was so excited when I did my research. I got my daughter, Tia, which is here on screen. I said, Tia, let's go upstairs. I got this idea to take a photograph. I want you to hold these drops in your right hand, and in your left hand, I'm going to give you all the stuff in my closet, in my downstairs cupboard in the kitchen. So if you're like me, you've got a cupboard full of all these different supplements. And most of them I never use because I don't like the way they taste. So I said, let's get those out. So in her left hand are some of the supplements that I was using. Energy, there's sleep there, there's digestion there. There's mental acuity there in her left hand. You couldn't tell, I'm just telling you what's there. In her right hand, look at those beautiful drops. When I see that, I see orange, I see strawberry, I see grape, and I see another strawberry with a different flavor, right? These are our Anion Dna Drops. The thing I love about these is when I give them to people, they never pull a face. They suck on them. Then I tell them about what they do, and I invite them to catalog the drops when they take them and to record in a journal what they feel and what it does for them. So today we have 15 different drops. We talk about 15 different experiences. This is just a marketing ploy that I threw in there many, many months ago. 15 drops, 15 experiences. But here's the point. Every box of drops was designed specifically to do something very specific. STP for pain. And I tell people, if you have a headache coming on, don't take one, take three. If you take 3 Tylenol, take 3 STP, give it a chance. My wife told me, she's not here in the room. For 3 months, we had these drops. She wouldn't take them. One day I said, what do you got to lose? Take the drop. She came in my office 35 minutes later and said, you know, my lower back pain, I'm telling you, I don't know if it's those drops. It went away. It's gone. Now it came back 2 days later, but it was a wonderful example I'm sharing with you of how that worked for her. ALT, one of the very first testimonials I had came from Alicia and Matt. Matt was hiking. This is back in July of last year. He goes hiking a lot. He said, Cowrie, I normally go on these hikes in Oregon, and I'm telling you, I took this ALT, I have allergies. Not only that it did not experience allergies, but I went through my hike, I feel great. I feel like I've got a lot of oxygen in me. I could go over all of these products and tell you what they've done for different people. What I'm going to invite you to do is contact whoever brought you onto this presentation. Tell them about something you want help with: digestion, mental acuity, immune system, heart health, joint health. Tell them what ails you. Ask them for some samples or purchase a box and go and catalog it and record in a journal the effects that it's had on you. There are a lot of different benefits. We know about these benefits, so I'm not going to go over them with you tonight. We know they're delicious. We know they're unique. Our products are the real deal. We have certificates by established organizations. So when we produce our products, there's quality standards that we have to meet. We're halal and kosher certified. We're gluten-free, non-GMO, which makes us beyond organic, okay? We have our ISO 22000 and our ISO 9001 cert. If you want to know what that means, go and Google it. I think you'll be amazed that we have those certifications. I know that I was. We manufacture all of our own drops. They're done in Eastern Europe. We control from farm to manufacturing to delivery to ensure that you have a quality product, and we can produce a lot of drops in a short period of time, which for me in this COVID situation, I'm really excited about that. When so many people are running out of inventory, we don't, because we can produce it. Now, I'm not going to go through the daily collection or the premium collection with you. I think most people know about them. Again, you can talk to whoever brought you to this presentation to learn more. From a business standpoint, if you bring a category creator to market and you tell a brand new story, you have the most advantage of building a big business. Why? Because you're not doing another Me Too product. People don't want to hear about the next shake. They don't want to hear about the next energy pill. They don't want to hear about a lot of different things because people have already been there and done that. You have the ability to tell a story nobody's told before. People love new stories. They love telling them. When Sergey built this business, he created a whole system to help you to be successful, not just to be healthy, but for you to be able to build a successful business. Guys, we have all the tools in place to do that. We have a compensation plan that rewards you handsomely for doing nothing more than sharing these wonderful drops with people. And the compensation plan kicks in. You don't even have to know how it works. Just talk to whoever bought you in. They'll tell you how to do it. It's really simple and it's very, very lucrative. So I'm going to end my presentation. I'm 1 minute over 35 minutes. And here's what I'm going to tell you. The next time you're out and you're caught in a rainstorm, don't curse. Put that umbrella down, stretch your hands out, and thank the universe for the beautiful negative ions that are flowing all around you. With that, it's been my pleasure to be with you this evening. Have a great evening. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you on the next presentation. Goodbye, everyone.